This is Critical Nonsense, our high-lowbrow show about culture, science, and tech. This week, Joey asks us about the zombie internet.
Woo! Jeez.
And I chimed in with, this is what a Joey sounds like.
Jeez Louise.
This is what an Aaron and Morty sounds like.
And this is what an executive producer and ennui at the disco, Jess Vander, sounds like.
Hi, this is Jess.
I don't think we have housekeeping. This house, there's nothing to see here. Everything's fine.
Totes, my goats. Bah.
You guys, how do you feel about zombies?
I mean, pretty good in that my husband loves them, and so I have spent 15 years in my relationship learning about all zombie paraphernalia. So if I don't say yes, I'm bad. Yeah, I love them.
It's a no from me.
I've been thinking about recently this idea of dead internet theory, which is a conspiracy theory, I suppose. I think that is how it has been. That's not in the way that I've been thinking about it, but like the original theory is that, direct from the Wikipedia page, is a conspiracy theory that asserts that since around 2016, the internet has consisted primarily of bot activity and automated content manipulated by algorithmic curation. That is what the original, I suppose, dead internet theory that has been posited and built upon. But I'm thinking of it less in a conspiratorial sense and more in the internet is increasingly feeling like almost exclusively AI generated content. And not to say that real people aren't putting out things places, but based on volume and things like that, the sort of places and spaces that you used to go to where it was reliably human, I suppose, which, up until maybe 2022 was everywhere. But now, that's also not 100% true, but now is feeling increasingly like, almost everything I'm seeing online feels like it is AI generated. And candidly, I'm not 100% sure how to feel about it. I feel like there is sort of that long ago time of the late 90s, early 2000s of sort of like weird Wild West, like democracy of ideas, and the bizarre things that we're putting out have been gone for quite some time, as I'm greatly dating myself and my CompuServe login. But I'm wondering, and my question for you all is, should we care if the internet disappears?
Sorry. I'm laughing at Jess because she's laughing that was not
an open-ended question.
And you were thinking so hard about making it open-ended.
So hard. You were like, that's definitely it.
I was just watching her face, be like, no.
It was so close.
What happens if the internet dies?
There we go. Nailed it.
That works. Oh God. I'm sorry, that was really funny. Well, I do. There's a few things that come to mind with this because you hit on a lot of things that I think are important to it and to what the answer to that question may be. I think one is the notion of one internet that we are all exploring, as opposed to the now like infinite individual internets that we're all within. And that came to mind because I'm seeing a fair amount of content that is definitely AI generated, but I'm still spending a lot of time with real people and real people's ideas. But even then, those are being filtered through very, very heavily through algorithms, even when I'm avoiding them. And so like your experience on the internet is like different than mine, and the actual world that we can travel to may actually even be limited because of that. So in that way, I'm like, is the internet already dead? Like one universal internet. And then the second piece that it sort of sparked for me is like how people react to the digital world's corruption and decay, I think is really, really interesting regardless. Because when the internet is dead, like that sort of, when the internet is dead and that like end state that we ultimately land at, that could be tomorrow, that could be many years in the future, but navigating a space that felt so utopian and free falling into decay, encouraging people then to reconnect with this physical world and to reacquaint themselves with the sort of somatic and lived experience. I love the idea of the real world being the utopia that we escape to. I love the framing of let's not escape to the moon. Let's escape from the internet back into the real world. So that's what I hope.
Oh, wow. I love that. And if I may posit a different potential interpretation to the zombie apocalypse internet story.
Dungeon Crawler Carl.
Because I'm loving
the rings.
I'm loving that interpretation. And what if there's another thing, which is the state of the internet, and especially, pardon if this becomes like a little bit worky, but like when you think about media brands and when you think about like the state of navigating all of the different things around the internet for the last recent history, we have, and this is another work thing, but like it is kind of like a brand. It's an interesting exercise in brand architecture because we have become obsessed with where to find stuff, like what like I might call like a destination. Like there is this incredible post that has been circulating around our team for the last, I don't even know how long, because I think it's one of the funniest things that I've seen all year. And it's this post that I'm not even sure I'll be able to read this without laughing, but let me give it a shot.
You can't.
Here it goes. By Aaron Fraggle, at Aaron Fraggle. It goes, it's on Tubu. It's literally on Hebe. It's on Pooty with ads. It's literally on Dippy. You can probably find it on Weeno. Dude, it's on Gumpy. It's a Phoebo original. It's on Poob. You can watch it on Poob. You can go to Poob and watch it. Log on to Poob right now. I just think, I think it's so fascinating that like, that is so funny because it captures this orientation towards destination of just like, I don't know, like just where do I get the thing? I'm just looking for a thing. Where do I get the thing? And like when you think about it, the internet and the reason Google has become so dominant is because our whole orientation around the internet is around search, finding where the thing that I'm looking for lives. But there's something really interesting, again, to use another architectural term, about the resurgence of attribution, of who made the thing being a thing that we now care way more about. Like I saw some stat recently about how, in a recent study, most people are open to AI made music as long as they know that it was made by AI. They just need to know who made it and then they're okay with that. And I think there's something to this idea of like a shift, a reorientation around the internet from destination to attribution, caring less about how am I going to find it, where am I going to find it, because like maybe that's actually you can find anything. You just ask any of the robots and they will tell you where to find it. But the thing that is going to be way more important to people is, but who made this? Is it real? Like the reCAPTCHA where it's like, how many crosswalks are in this photo? Like the idea of like, actually we care about who you are and like, how do you signal your you-ness as like, what does that mean for the way that we navigate this thing? I don't know. That sounds less like death to me and more like a reshaping of the way we move around. Like, maybe there's a dark side version of it where it's like the internet badge equivalent of like, gotta ding my badge every time I like navigate a digital space to be like, yep, it's me. But at the same time, like that's maybe the darker side versus the other side of like, oh, are there other ways that we actually start paying more attention to who we're getting our stuff from and that we care about, and pay attention to source again.
Can I add one quick thing too, which is Thomas Friedman this week wrote an op-ed that was very in the New York Times about the rise of AI, because of course, but bringing these two perspectives kind of together in an interesting way. He believes that there needs to be much more regulation based on the understanding that we have invented a new species and we are learning now what it is to coexist with another species on our planet. And when I put sort of those two pieces together, it's sort of like there's a lot of, lots of questions that start to come up. But I think specifically the question of attribution starts to get at, I need to know which species this came from because I need to understand its like quality of origin. And I also need to sort of demarcate what is human and therefore is valuable from that which is synthetic. And I will allow my judgment to run rampant on whether or not it is valuable. And I'm not going to get, what's the alien movie, Peter Jackson, he did it right after the Hobbits and all that.
Avatar?
South Africa.
Oh, South Africa, Chippy? District 9?
District 9. That's what it was. So like, I don't want to go down that road too much because then I'm not suggesting what Thomas Friedman suggests, which is that we have birthed a new species and we're learning how to coexist with it. However, I do think that it's really interesting when we think about both attribution and, planetary decay and what we need to do to coexist.
I mean, the attribution angle is challenging for the reason that privacy becomes challenging on the internet, and arguably whether intended or not, privacy was always sort of like a critical aspect of early internet. And if we do a nostalgia swoon about it, there is a component of it that you could say, right, like so much of the sort of liberty of the early internet was a product of anonymity or pseudonymity. And I think in this context, the attribution, even sort of on this like in quote species level, is incumbent on you proving that you're a human, right? Which becomes challenging. And I think this is where, you have humans creating weird things on the internet, and you throw enough things at the wall, like interesting, cool things start to come out, which I think was part of what made the early internet exciting. Like, I could have never thought of how weird this thing is, but it is delightful, or it is interesting, or it is compelling in some sort of way. And I think they're, going into that like science fiction realm, like many people have written different aspects of what can happen to this. The one that comes to mind is Neil Stephenson had a book that was called Dodge or Fall or Dodge in Hell, I think is the name. Or Dodge in Hell is like a subtitle in it, or post semicolon, something like that. But it was a sort of a sequel to his book Reamdy, but in it there's like a point where someone basically pulls a lever, not literally, but there's an issue with like false information being sort of fed onto the internet, and there's sort of a branching point, and the guy just basically says like, okay, flood the zone, and he makes it so the internet is effectively unusable because it is completely like saturated with misinformation and lies and whatever. He's ostensibly a good guy, but he's like, okay, it's broken now, so I'm gonna fully break it so that it can't happen. And then you wind up with, to your early point, Aaron, sort of these like sub-gated internets that emerge. And I think maybe arguably already, which you said, like we're there of like, are you in the Instagram internet? And there's like some cross-compatibility. But even now, that gating seems to be breaking down, where algorithms, like if you're linking out, whether it's on Instagram, whether it's on Twitter, whether it's on LinkedIn, if you're linking out to a source of being like, I encountered this thing, this is interesting, you should check it out. If you're linking out to it, they will like suppress those posts in a process of trying to keep people on their platform of whatever sort. Like, so like the walls are going up maybe slowly and sort of in the boiled frog way that you discussed, but we're getting different internets already. But within those different internets, you're still being flooded. Like some of the discovery component and the destination component, like if you think about what are your destinations today, they are largely going to be feeds, right? Like LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, like wherever it is. And you may have a few destination media sites like the New York Times or the Post or something like that. But in the early days that you had RSS feeds where you could sort of gather destinations into you and then jump out to them. But like destinations feels like almost gone forever, you know?
Yeah, it reminds me too that, you know, from I guess a geopolitical perspective, there already are demarcations of different internets within people are trafficking. And so like, you know, China's famous blocked off internet
Great firewall
experience. Exactly. And we're seeing more and more countries sort of lean into that. So there's like the experiences that we're having in the Western internet pockets that are already like a smaller portion of this digital universe that exists. I almost said digital multiverse, but I'm not going to because my Marvel brain can't handle it. So that's one thing that I think the fact that we've already been navigating that universe almost like pleasantly unaware or undeterred by the fact that it's already subsegmented and that we're existing in a subsegment, that's kind of, I don't know, nerve-wracking. But then the other bit with like specifically the idea that bots are running that internet or are like kind of populating that planet, and the distinction between, you know, a simple line of script and a highly complex set of scripts and actions in the form of like some sort of an AI, reminds me of AI porn that's been popping around. So I've been hearing about literal AI porn stars that are existing that are not being attributed as not being real. And yet the OnlyFans model works perfectly for that, because you just get people who go there, pay a certain amount, and then they get what they need. They know what they're getting. And yet somebody else is getting paid for the art of creating those fantasies and that world. And it's just, I mean, it's the same thing, Jess, that you were talking about with like AI musicians and other AI forms of like digital expression, where what can be created and what the rules are of trafficking in that, they start to really drop down when pleasure's involved, or like, you know, when it just comes down to like when pleasure and transaction are at play, when it's just about achieving a goal quickly. And I think that's I think that the line that is drawn between that sort of use of the internet versus all of the other uses when it comes to work or news gathering, information gathering, staying connected is just complicated. It changes whether or not the world, where in what versions of the internet the bottification matters most.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's interesting too because it's infiltrating other places, right? Like the New York Times, notorious for having like a really strong editorial board and like strong editors and things like that. But then recently had like a major headline on the front page around the North American Treaty Organization instead of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. And like these errors that are infiltrating that would not have historically infiltrated are also interesting. There's sort of other theories that are adjacent to, but are being, posited by like economists and things like that, like the end of human knowledge, where the over-reliance on AI models, potentially creates a situation wherein new human knowledge is not created any longer. And like, we're not there. And like, it's a thing to be, mindful of and think about. And they're sort of putting out these hypotheses, rigorously in theory. But like those ideas of like, the internet was a place where there was like rapid expansion of human knowledge. New theories were posited. People were interacting with novel ideas because they were engaging with people that were not sort of like geographically in their propinquity. And so like that was so much of the benefit of it. It is not exclusively it came with plenty of bad things as well. But that is sort of like the potential thing to mourn, right? Like the sort of like combustion of human brains bouncing off of other human brains.
And this is where I plug Quiet Media, because it's the best place to plug something that you wrote in the middle of a podcast episode, not at the beginning. So Charlotte Rubesa at Wyden London started a publishing company called Quiet Media. And the whole point of it was actually to bring the best marketing minds together in a tangible both in a tangible format, but also in a place where you can sort of get away from the internet eroding a lot of the value of those minds coming together. And you can have a little bit more confirmation or affirmation that like, this is where minds are coming together around these ideas. So the inaugural issue is out now. It just came out this week. You should go get it. We'll put the link in the show notes. I wrote an article that's all about losing yourself in real space and how brands are doing that exact same thing. Based on the psychological principle of de-individuation, fun, nerdy stuff. If you're a critical nonsense listener, you'll love it. So go listen to it. Yay. Or go read it. Listen to it. Go read it. The other thing is that a lot of times when we're navigating an idea that's as big and obtuse and as, I don't know, psychologically existential as the death of the internet, I think that it does remind me of a Rick and Morty episode. So the only reason that Rick and Morty is in my mind, by the way, I just want to clarify. Rufio just had surgery, and so he is downstairs in the living room with the TV on so that there's noise, and I needed to just play something that would play constantly and not drop out, and Rick and Morty came to mind. So I just threw it on, made a profile for him with Dobby the elf as the, as the icon, as the avatar, and then just let it go. But in one of the episodes in season 2 that I just happened to walk into the kitchen around, Rick says that he is going to change, he's going to ruin the entire universe by changing a 1 to a 0. And it cuts to a planet where like he basically, what he was changing was the value of their economy and the value of money. And so it's a really quick play out of what happens to a culture when money has no value. And like Oh yeah, it collapses because there's no rules. Like ultimately, like nothing matters anymore because the thing that we were using as currency completely random, doesn't exist anymore. So I want your pants, and like the president just like disappears. It's like kind of chaotic. And so to me,
I want your
think
pants.
that it is like pants all of a sudden become the currency that everybody's trying to murder each other over. It's very Rick and Morty-ish. But the reason I bring it up is because I think that like there is no way that it's a wonderful thought experiment, right? To imagine that the internet is filled with bots. And it's why it's a perfect conspiracy theory, because there's no way to validate it, because the internet already lives in our minds and lives in our subjective truths. Like every day we are deciding whether or not we believe what is being posted by a human with human intent. We trust that the email that we're responding to is coming from the actual person that sent it. And like, not to go super neurological, but I'm with my neuroscience friends. I might as well. It's like it is yet another sign of that gap of perception of just we are interpreting things and patterns as quickly and as reasonably as we possibly can. And if there's not a negative drawback, we just keep doing it. So if the internet was dead, is going to be dead, I think it's always been the same level of alive, or the same level of dead. That's my deep cut take. You're welcome.
Deep thoughts with Aaron Powers.
Mm-hmm. Y'all, you clicked on this. You clicked on this episode and wanted to hear my thoughts on who knew what, and you got it. I gave it to you on a platter. That's my gift.
Is a strawberry alive?
That's the turtle eating it, and so the strawberry is crying out in pain.
Was it attached to the stem or what?
No.
No, it was just like next to. Oh, the strawberry. I thought we were talking about the turtle being attached to the strawberry stem.
It's like a thought experiment. There's like a show called The Infinite Monkey Cage with like Brian Cox, like the physicist. And there's like a very long ongoing thing about like, is a strawberry alive? And there are like a lot of hot takes about whether a strawberry is alive or not. If it's removed from the stem, but it still contains seeds and has the potential for I think it brings us to Jess's zombie corner.
Well, I tried my best to make it positive, but it turns out that the whole internet is dead. Take Haven in a coffee shop. That's all we have.
Brains.
It's a coffee shop?
We have no brains in the coffee shop.
Take Haven in the coffee shop.
Indeed.
Drown your sorrows in a warm pastry.
I was expecting a macchiato, but whatever.
Oh. Yes.
A flat white?
We are breaking every rule of improv. Oh, God.
You know what's really funny? You ever, just as an aside about barista creations, is how all of them are like, it's coffee and milk, and then you try to describe to someone the distinction. It's like a little less. Just a little less milk. That's a macchiato.
No, the milk is foamed, not steamed.
Right. That's the difference between latte and cappuccino. It's like a little less bubbles and a little more liquid. It's like I just think that's so silly. Oh,
I think that's really silly.
Me. So
goodness you.
So when the whole digital sphere is crashing in on itself, you can always just think, goodness, how much foam or how little foam should we be discussing, and what language do we have to describe?
Let's get back to the important things.
Yes.
Which liquids and what are you doing to them?
What's happening to the liquid? Yeah.
I love it. Well, we did something. I think we did it.
Critical Nonsense is a Sylvain production.
Brought to you by a box of berries. Look, what would you rather have to cradle your fruit than a box? It will be stained. It will be flimsy. It will be less flimsy than some other kind of bag or things that could bruise the berries. So that's what you would contain those with.
As always, we'd like to thank our executive producer and the girl with all the gifts, Jess Vander.
You are welcome. We would also like to thank sound engineer and our great internet, Alex Gonta.
We'd like to thank our programming coordinator and fungal-based zombie, Les Jacobs.
And thank you to our production crew and the ones. Sorry.
Wow. Wow.
So bad. Sorry, Gilbert, Nora Mestridge, Christy Jensen, Amanda Medina, and Amy Waters.
And as always, thanks, Len.
Thank you.
Special thanks to apparently Broken Brains Friday.
Yeah, it does seem everything devolved from here. And what began as zombie internet turned into drowning in a cup of espresso-based drink.
Zombie Aaron and Jess.
Yep, that's what it is. That's what it is.
Special thanks to zombies, I guess.
Yeah.
In a literary context, not in real life. Let's not go there.
Yeah.
We got enough going on.
Yeah,
Let's
right.
not
It's like,
make
no,
it real.
honestly, it just isn't the time. Thank you. It's just not the time for zombies. So can you just hold? Special thanks. I think it was Barry Shaffron who introduced me to this tweet. But it also just was resurfaced and floated around. My goodness, does it give me a laugh? Poob. That is a funny word.
Poob. It's on Poob. Literally watch it on Poob.
Just like literally just, okay? I'm sure you have a Poob subscription. Just, okay?
Well, we sort of did it.
I don't know.
I'm not going to say we did it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It devolved, but that's okay. We tried our best.
If the internet dies, I'll meet you at the coffee shop.
Yeah. I'll meet you at the coffee shop. I'm gonna go now.
Love you, mean it. Bye.
Yep, Alex, you're just going to have to edit that little last part out because I completely lost my train of thought. It's gone. And that's ironic because the article is about trains. So.